we rode our one and only Norwegian ferry heading to the Valdres Valley. Our first stop was at the famous Borgund Stavkirke, a church that goes back to the 1200s. Some 45 years ago, my father was the driving force in having a stave church built in Rapid City, South Dakota. This church used the architectural plans from the Borgund Church. My dad and mom loved the fact that ancestors had been worshiping in this church for nearly 1,000 years. The Rapid City Church is now about 45 years old and hopefully has hundreds of years remaining. We traveled to our hotel in Valdres Valley, the beautiful Harangtunet. We had an amazing time driving the sled dogs in Baito in the Valdres Valley.
In my hand.
Okay, just tell me if I need help.
Yeah, I probably do with him.
No, I can stand on over here.
First, we had to harness them. Fortunately, our guide did the heavy lifting.
Oh, nice. Clean picture. Okay, what is Cristiano! Cristiano!
Is it good? Yeah, he's really strong.
And he has the brother. His brother is the same.
Okay.
He goes in the back. So he goes alone, so... Oh, sorry. Yeah. That's fine. So watch out for these will probably... Now we just... The brother comes from the other. So there will be two in the back.
Okay.
So just watch out. These two guys in the back, they might jump a lot, so be a little bit.
And you're okay with starting off? You okay, Mark, with starting
Just try to relax, and it's very steerable, especially when you get the speed on it. It turns kind of like a go-kart, so that shouldn't be a problem. But you have to have control of your own team, of your own kart. So your dogs will just follow my dogs, but you still have to stay on the road. Maybe there's some holes, some bumps, maybe you want to steer around those. When you take it off, you have to have your weight on the real brake, because otherwise they will go. Mm-hmm. So then you let go slowly of the brake, so we get a nice slow start when we go out on the road. And then you don't necessarily have to brake on the flats unless there's some holes or some bumps. Maybe you want to slow down a little bit.
Beautiful day. We're so fortunate. We're at the top.
Cleopatra and
That was
Don't Pastor, not unicorn.
What a hoot!
Afterwards, we had a picnic in a teepee, fire
Yeah,
and
if
all.
you keep it going and close it up, it can get kind of like good temperature. Not really warm, but decent.
Ola Helga Floenna is a gift to the Valdres Valley. He frequently meets with families searching for their ancestors at no charge whatsoever. And he gave us 2.5 days of his time and knowledge. There is no one in Valdres that knows family histories and families like he does.
But this immigration to the States, that is time dependent, to say it that way, because that's starts in the 1840s, late 1840s, and have a peak around 1858, 59, 60. Then comes a break, because suddenly messages goes back that don't travel here now, it's a war here. But in 65, then it picks up again, and it peaks around 1880. Then it goes down again, and then later, when we get after 1905, then I think more and more people go to Canada.
Really?
Yeah. Because probably then it's much stronger control to get into the United States. Easier to go into Canada. Those early immigrants, they started out in very often in Wisconsin. Then next move was into Minnesota, and from there they started to go to the Dakotas.
Oh, right.
Very often they put their oldest children and bought land in North Dakota, left the children there, the oldest children, and went back. So they had secured more land for the family. Shake hands with 20 people in Fagernes outside the tourist season. I can guarantee that you are related by blood to at least 5.
Still today?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
How do you remember this?
Don't ask me. I don't know.
You must have an incredible mind, because
No, because these are more or less they live in the neighbor society from me, and I know both Ola and the other Ola, which is the father of that girl, quite well.
And of course, the fun question is, will we be able to meet any of them? Yes. Oh,
Yes.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. That will be a thrill. That will be a thrill.
We met a number of John's relatives. Some of the people on the bottom row of this chart were there to greet John. They would be his 4th cousins. Do you see any resemblance? This farm is rather famous because it has an unused cemetery that is an historical site. More than 200 years ago, John's relative went to Oslo to get permission to have a family cemetery on his land. When he arrived, he discovered that he did not have the money to pay the fee. He came home, never to return again, and yet the land was preserved for this uncreated cemetery. As you can see from this chart, I am the 4th cousin of Ola's children. Ola is on the far right bottom. My dad's name should be right above mine, and my grandfather, Elmer, would be in the space directly above Conrad's. I did not meet any of my fourth cousins. Maybe next time. I had the privilege of meeting Ola Stokkebrenn, my dad's third cousin.
His son is now the farmer.
Really?
Yeah. His son is now the farmer. And his son is married to Ola, whom you met in Tisdaland. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, right.
Så byggde med
And he has built
Big
his place for his retirement on the top of the farm. So he can control his son all the time. Slik at du kan ha det kontroll med sonen din hele tiden.
Du ser huset.
But where is your, how big is your farm here?
Det er ikke skog her, vet du.
Yeah, he has made it himself.
Does it go over here?
Ja, nei, ja, du ser. Men der, jeg bygde nytt hus der.
Ola built a new living house in the main farm.
Yes.
And then his,
Men
he thought that
jeg
was
skal gå inn i den der Randarsbyboken, for jeg så alle hus her som har flyttet inn.
Ja, det er veldig moro. Ola built a new living house there, and then he moved up here.
Took it over.
Yeah. And as I told you, his son is married to Ola's daughter. Yeah. So it's a small world.
When he told us he would be 70 in the fall, we found out that he was born just 4 days after I was. Right.
The story is that when you get to Oslo, you have to take a trip to the front of the Parliament building, and there you will find 2 stone lions lying guarding the Parliament at the entrance, both sides of the stairs leading up to the Parliament building. And those lions were carved by a prisoner who came from Mørstad in East Slidre, who is either related to both of you or to one of you. I'm not sure. I don't remember at the moment. But he had been making false money.
Oh.
Yeah.
Counterfeit.
Yes, counterfeit money. And then together with a man with whose family he lived in Bergen, and then they started to quarrel about how much this Mr. Mørstad should pay the other one to keep this, it silent.
Ah, right.
And then in rage he put his knife into him 16 or 17 times. And he was sentenced to death.
Oh my.
But in the High Court, there was one judge who voted against the others. So then he kept his life. He was, after he had been carving these lions, he's probably the person from East Slidre who has come furthest in artwork at all.
And what was his name?
Gudbrand Mørstad. And I've sent you the PDF with his family tree and how he connects into either yours or John's. I'm not sure.
Okay. The Høres Stavkirke is a special place in John's and Mark's ancestry. This is where their great-great-grandfather, Thomas Olsen Helly, was baptized and confirmed before he headed off to America to begin his new life.
Thank